Oh, let me turn my phone down because always when I'm on to see during the day when I want somebody to call me, nobody says nothing. But when I'm on a live stream, that's when everybody wants to text and call and all that stuff. Put
I
that
didn't
down.
realize we were live already. We are
Oh
live.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I just said live. Yeah, I don't do that countdown, man. We just
He's,
jump on in
he's like,
and
let's
get right
just
on
do
it,
it,
man.
bro. Yeah, just
Yeah, yeah.
I almost prefer that because I mean I know you don't do that because it's like I love hopping into your streams right as you're getting started and it's like you're just catching the end of a conversation or something, and then you guys get into it like right now.
Right. Well, yeah, because I want that feeling of like we're actually like just conversating, not like because we do the countdown. It's almost like it feels like we're getting ready for a show. Hey, this is Rashad G here, and I have a special guest, Anthony A. Perez.
Hey man, you didn't have to come for Mike and I like that, bro.
No, no, no. I'm just saying for me, man, for me, because there's a couple of live streams I did where I felt like I'm like, why do I feel like a game show host? Like I'm
Right,
just
right. There's that fine balance, of like
yeah,
kind of like putting on a show, like
right.
right now we're just having a conversation, so it makes it easier. But there's like that
Hmm.
element of being on for the camera, and then when you're
Right.
doing your own video, it could be a little showy.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. But anyways, man, while I got you on, man, we're live, so we're about to go and get into it. So to those that's tuning in, got my main man Anthony A. Perez in the house. Got some family here. Been doing this tit for tat thing for a minute now. Like what about 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, pretty much almost 3 years now, I guess, because we started during the pandemic. It's
Right.
crazy, or when the pandemic started.
When the
Yeah,
pandemic started, yeah. So talking about divine intervention, because this was originally supposed to be me and cousin China, but then cousin China betrayed me and abandoned me. You know what I'm saying? But luckily, you love movies just as much as I do. With China, it was like she likes shows, but she doesn't like movies. And her reason for not liking movies is the dumbest reason I've ever heard of. She says because they end. I swear to God, that was the answer. I said, why? Why don't you like movies? Because they end. The fuck?
it's so interesting how people watch shit. Like when like I know people like that they don't like watching movies because it's not long enough.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's people who don't like watching shows that are too long,
Right.
and then there's people that like, but they don't like a show to be too short. It's like there's no winning. There's always something that somebody doesn't want to
Yeah,
watch something
yeah. I
for.
mean, well, for me, I feel like with shows, I got a little PTSD because, like, I'm very passionate. So when I get invested in something, I'm invested, But then when the show starts going another direction, and I'm like, dude, like Walking Dead, for example, when I started Walking Dead, I was like the biggest fan. Like, I was one of those people. If Daryl dies, I riot, right? And
Right,
then by season 5 or 6, when they got to Alexandria, I'm like, what the fuck? This is getting kind of stupid now. And then
right.
when Negan came along, Negan was cool at first, but then Negan started to become overkill. And I'm like, all right, I checked out, man. I'm like,
Yeah,
I wasted 5 years for nothing.
that's a weird thing, right? Because I was the same way. Like, so I remember watching the first night that it played. I remember looking. It was back in the day too. I remember my grandpa had a TV guide in his room, and I took the TV guide and I was trying to see what day it was going to play on, and yeah, so I remember my sister and I stayed up late. My mom didn't really like horror stuff too much
Hmm.
then, like zombie stuff, so she didn't want to watch it with us. So my sister and I stayed up
Right.
late to watch that first episode, and we were hooked, man. And I remember just
Yeah.
watching it. I bought the first season on Blu-ray as soon as it came out. I remember I showed my mom that way, and then my mom got into it. And then after that, it was like my whole family would just watch it for seasons after
Hmm.
season. And yeah, I want to say I probably made it to like I think specifically I could say like 6 episodes into season 7, which was shortly after the whole thing with Negan. Like the first
Right.
that's the season when Negan shows up. I remember that specifically because that first episode is crazy. It was what everybody was going crazy about. That
Hmm.
cliffhanger that left everybody like excited between seasons was crazy. That first
Right.
episode was insane, and then I felt like it just took a huge dip
It just
down.
took a nosedive. Yeah, it just took a
Right,
serious
man.
nosedive.
And I just
Yeah,
lost
because
interest.
I remember that summer, like everybody was like saying, like, hey, well, who was it? Well, was it Michonne or was it what I'm saying? Everybody was taking a guess. And
Right.
so like I'm like, no, the obvious is Glenn because it was in the comic Glenn died. So that whole summer, everybody was just like, throwing their theories out there. And when it finally happened, like, well, yeah, well, Glenn was one of them, but we didn't expect Abraham.
Right,
Spoiler
right.
for whoever didn't see it. Um,
At this point, what are they like season 11, season 10?
Yeah,
What's
something
up,
like
Black
that, man.
Tastic?
I checked out, man. Blacktastic, what's up, fam? Yo, looking forward to what's the next movie? Not what have I done? It's called I've Done It Again, which I think is homage to Let's Do It Again from back in the '70s. All right, so while I got you here, bro, I'm gonna go ahead and play the little trailer here, man. So we're here today to talk about my man Spike Lee, very controversial director, and the only reason he's controversial because he dares to ask the questions that people are scared to answer, and he brings up topics that people feel uncomfortable talking about. So that's why he's considered controversial because there's no lies in what he's talking about. It's maybe a little extreme at times, maybe a little exaggerated, but it's like here, America, this is you. Take a look at yourself. Man in the mirror type shit. Make that change, Michael Jackson, and people don't want to see themselves. So Spike Lee makes people uncomfortable, and I love it. You know what I mean? So, and this movie is no exception. So let me go ahead and play that right now, then we're going to get to it.
Millennium Minstrel Show.
White actors in blackface.
We're using black actors with blacker faces.
Yo! Go to your windows and yell out, I am not gonna take it anymore!
All right, so that's Bamboozled, the 2000 Spike Lee joint. I think one of his more underrated films because this is not one that you hear a lot about. You hear about Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, of course, She's Gotta Have It, which was his first movie, School Days. So there's so many Spike Lee movies that even if you haven't seen his movies, you know about, but this one is not talked about enough. And to me, I feel like it's one of his better ones, and what we're going to, touch on later is even the quality of the film where it's not shot in film or not even 60 millimeter. This shit was shot in mini DV, which gives it like a low quality look. So at first it's probably kind of like jarring a little bit, like, what the fuck is this? But as you watch the movie, you see the performances and how the story unfolds. You kind of forget that it's shot in mini DV and you're just fully invested in the film. So right off rip, I love this movie. It does bring up a lot of, it brings up some shit that, like I said, like Spike Lee does, is where people feel uncomfortable talking about the shit that he talks about, that the topics he presents. You know what I'm saying? That's black people on TV, So the history of black people on film and television it started out as white people wearing blackface. That was the origin of black people on film. And then eventually they allowed black people to act in films. But when they did allow us to act in film, we had to be stupid, buffoonish, or we had to be monstrous. Like if you watch the, what's it called? The D.W. Griffith movie, Birth of a Nation. It was black people as like these gorilla looking things with big eyes and, capturing the white woman and kidnapping her. Or you had to be real dumb and stupid like this. And, we better get back to work for a massacre home. I'm just dumb and lazy. I don't know who I am. We had to act like that, So it wasn't until a long time where we were able to finally get some dignity and integrity and show that, hey, we're more than bumbling idiots and stupid, and we're actually intelligent people, And Bamboozled is a satire tackling that subject, which kind of in some ways kind of still goes on today. Like not as bad, but you do still kind of see the whole buffoonery shit, you know what I mean? And I don't fuck with it. But anyways, I love the movie. Perez, your overall thoughts of Bamboozled and what you thought of it?
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed it. Rashad and I were talking briefly right before. And I told him I didn't want to say too much, but yeah, I really enjoyed the movie, man. And like you said, it's like at first it's a little jarring because the film was filmed on these little cameras that were like you can find at like your local Best Buy, like Rashad was telling me before the show. And yeah, the movie started, and first of all, when I was renting it, I was surprised that in the modern day that it was only available in standard definition at 480p. So I was like, right. Oh my gosh. I thought, okay, maybe they just never high-resed it, but the movie, is still like cinematic. Because at this point, Spike Lee had already directed, pretty cinematic films with like Do the Right Thing, probably being one of the more notable ones that came out before this. And so I was thinking to myself, damn, was this like a step down or was this almost like a purposeful production value like situation? But whatever the case may be, I remember just the movie started. I go, oh, this is like almost feels like something I made with my friends, But like you said a second ago, once you get into the movie and the story and the performances start really telling the story, that's where the movie really started to shine for me, man. I found myself super engaged throughout. It's a really great blend of just good, well-paced storytelling with fun and super self-aware yet believable performances. You know, Damon Wayans' character, for instance, like he's so over the top with the voice that he's giving, like he's supposed to be, you know, this black man who's been whiteified in a way, you know what I'm saying? And he's so ridiculous with it. But after you get past the fact that it sounds like this guy talking like this, like you get further into the movie and you don't think of him as an actor putting on this voice. You see the character, you see the broken man in that situation. Like I don't know, it sells itself, because I think part of the movie strength is that like Spike Lee had a vision and it all feels cohesive. You know, it feels like all the performances are in line. I felt like all the actors knew what kind of movie they were in. So what made this movie really work for me were those performances, were the story. And then when you get into things that are happening later on, like with the show, you know, and Mantan and all this stuff, what's weird about it, right, is as a viewer, it was structured in a way that it's actually entertaining. So you as a viewer are almost, I don't know, and I felt weird while watching it because the movie is wildly uncomfortable while making this massive, big message that you can totally understand what's happening as you're watching. You can see in like little moments of dialogue or like the way that people would react to something, especially when they first start the show versus how the audience is changing over time with them eventually, you know, having Granny with freaking, you know, blackface makeup on and she's kind of like, you know, calling herself the N-word and all this stuff. And this dude that ends up and he's like, you know, I'm the biggest N-word in here. I'm a bigger N-word than the N-words in here. It's like, dude, like this movie is so self-aware. It's so over the top at times, right? But it nails that message. But I think one of the things that was the most almost, and I think it just really showcases what Spike Lee was trying to do. I think the thing that was the most impressive while also being the most uncomfortable about it and the most kind of like eye-opening about it was that the Mantan and Sleep and Eat stuff, like those shows were, as a viewer of the movie itself, were entertaining. And you almost feel entertained to the point where you almost got to sit back and think to yourself, I shouldn't be entertained by this at all, but I am. And it just leans heavier into the message and themes of the movie. So yeah, man, overall a great pick and one that I'd never even heard of until you gave me the suggestion. So yeah, to say underrated is definitely, that's definitely the case.
Well, you're welcome. But yeah, you know, and that's a good point you bring up because that was Spike. That's what Spike was going for, was that he wanted you to be like, wait a minute, I shouldn't be laughing at this shit, but it is kind of funny, you know. I mean, especially as a black person, you're like, this shit's highly offensive, but it is kind of fucking, it is kind of funny, you know what I'm saying? And when you watch some shows like, you know, like some real shows from back in the day, like you have stuff like the Jeffersons and what's another one, like What's Happening? That's My Mama. These are shows you probably never heard of, but these were staples in a lot of black households. But they show us acting buffoonish and acting, you know, kind of ignorant. But we laughed at it. We, you know, not only did we laugh at it, but we mimicked it in a lot of ways. So that became like our personality, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, like when you mature, you're like, nah, that's not cool. We shouldn't be doing that. And the Damon Wayans character, what was his name? Delacroix, some shit like that.
Yeah, Delacroix, like so, Pierre Delacroix.
Pierre Delacroix. So if you notice later on, come to find out that's not even his real name, because when he goes to see his father at the comedy club, he's like, boy, well, why the hell did you take that name? And why do you talk like that? So that just shows right there he's putting on. So not only is he putting on for the movie, but his character's actually putting on. That's not even really him. You know, he had to make up this whole other persona to fit into, I guess, the white corporate world or whatever. Because if he had a name like Joe Jackson and he talked like regular like this, he wouldn't get a job. But if I talk really proper with a somewhat accent that nobody knows, and you know, and show my credentials, I will get a job. So yeah, his whole thing is he's a showrunner. He comes up with these sitcoms and shows, and lately the ratings have not been good. So they have to come up with something to get people watching again, because the ratings are like, you know, taking a nosedive. And the executive, Michael Rappaport, he is the white black guy who is more hip than Delacroix. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, I'm more nigga than you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like I have a black wife, I have black kids. You know what I'm saying? I know about the streets more than you. So he comes up with this show. He says, okay, I'm gonna show him. I'm gonna come up with something that's so offensive and so derogatory that it's gonna prove my point why a show like this is a mistake, and then I'm gonna lose my job. Like that was the whole plan. But unbeknownst to him, the show ended up being a hit. And it's like Frankenstein's monster, like, what the fuck have I done? So now this creation that's supposed to be, sending a message has now become this big phenomenon that's even out of his control now, where even he's like, dude, I can't stop this even if I wanted to. But then eventually he ends up getting on board with it because now he's laughing at the shit. Like the only one that's like really, how we're supposed to be feeling is the Jada Pinkett character. She's like she's the only one that's like, no, wait a minute, I don't know about this stuff now. Wait a minute, that porch monkey thing, nah. They look why you tripping. You know what I mean?
Right.
So of all the characters, so out of all the characters, which one did you gravitate towards the most? Were you like, okay, I really fuck with this character? Or were there any characters like that? Because it seemed like everybody in here was kind of a piece of shit in a way, in their own way.
I think the characters I connected with the most for sure, and I think it's because it's really where the heart of the film is for me. It has to be, Man, Tan, and Sleep and Eat, and I think that those two for me were like, it's interesting to see from the very beginning when they first start putting on the blackface versus the last time that they're putting on blackface. Like, what's amazing is over the course of over the course of time, when you get to that later part of the movie, they're struggling to put that makeup on. They're looking looking in the mirror at themselves with shame, and then the very end when they're when they walk out, you know what I'm saying, you got this whole audience filled with people in blackface, you know what I'm saying, and they're like, it's like the way that this face that they're putting on that's supposed to signify what they already are becomes a costume in a way to the world. And the what's interesting is kind of like the way you were talking about how, for those older shows and films, a lot of times they were consumed by black households, and a lot of them kind of mimicked those worlds. And that was definitely specifically in a time where what was put on TV, and we're still seeing that today with social media more so than with movies and TV. But back in the day, it's like what we saw in the movies and TV, everybody wanted to replicate it in their own home. You know what I mean? So for white people, it was Everybody Loves Lucy or Friends or some shit like that. But unfortunately, the things that depicted certain individuals negatively, that also kind of trickled into society. Now you see that far more. You see that far more with social media than movies and TV. But yeah, I think it had like a really interesting message about how, like it's crazy how like it was the idea to create this show versus how it's later perceived by the world and how it's accepted, and how it becomes this thing where, again, like it's the fact that it becomes more of a costume than anything else.
It's like especially Americans, where we're always blinded by the entertainment and see it as face value instead of what the shit's really trying to say. So subliminally, it's really doing damage to us, but because we're just seeing the humor of it, we just ignore the fact that it's really making fun of us, but because it's so funny, we just ignore it. Like I'll give you an example, like growing up in the 80s, like all the shows I was telling you about, I grew up on that shit. So as a little black boy growing up in the 80s, I thought that's how we're supposed to act. We're supposed to be, jiving and like, say, man, what you talk about, Willis? Shit, jive ass motherfucker. I thought that's how we were supposed to be because that's what I saw on TV and on movies. I knew growing up, if I was a black boy in a horror movie, I was gonna be the first one to die because that's all I saw. I know that I wasn't gonna make it to the end. You know what I mean? And so, and even when you go to school, you start carrying yourself like that, and that's how they kind of expect you to act because that's what they see on TV. So it wasn't until something like The Cosby Show, where The Cosby Show showed for the first time a black family consisted of a mother and a father in the same household. They're married, they get along, they have money. One's a doctor, one's a lawyer. They don't live in the hood. They don't live, they don't live in the ghetto. There's no hood shit going on. It's just a regular family. Like the Huxtables could have been white or black, but they just so happen to be black. And so that was the first time I was like, well, shit, okay, black people just talking regular, so we can act like that. We can talk regular like that. And I like how this movie depicts that because it shows like, that this is what is expected of us, but this is how we really are. But then, okay, for entertainment, we're going to show them the buffoonery side of us. And that's what's accepted, not the educational side. And then if you remember, there was that rap group led by Jada Pinkett's brother, Big Black African, who was played by Mos Def, who had I feel like his heart was in the right place. He did have, some what's the word I'm looking for, bro? He did have the right intentions of what he was trying to do, but then even they came off as ignorant. Because when they're watching the Mantan show, all they can say is, man, that's some bullshit. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
With the one white guy in the group.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know him, but he was actually a rapper from back in the day. That's MC Search.
No, I have no idea what that is, but that's cool. But I remember that was just so funny to like the lines of dialogue they gave him specifically. It was just like, who is this guy?
Yeah, he was what's up, Rob? Okay, let me
What's
just
up,
shout some people here. Blacktastic. I want to read that. That was interesting. So this is one of the reasons why I don't make thumbnails of me making stupid ass faces reminds me of blackface. Yeah, I get it, bro. At the same time, too, you gotta sell the thumbnail too. You know what I'm saying? So you want to give people a reason to click on your shit. So it's like, even if you're not really excited about the movie, it's like, oh my god, why is he making that face? Let me click on that shit. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. But yeah, I understand that though. Cinematic Tendency, what's up, my man? Happy President's Day. Cool. Rob, was good. Yeah, Rob's like the coolest looking. Like that's like an album cover and shit, man.
Yeah, no,
like,
look at him.
Rob looks like he plays fucking guitar and shit, and like
sings. He does play guitar actually.
Oh, he does play guitar.
Yeah.
What you talk about? What's I remember that? Yeah. That's how those shows were back then. A lot of say, man, give me some skin, brother. Right on.
All right.
Like, come on, man. Why you gotta show us like that? But yeah. MC Search, he was one of the rare white rappers back in the day, man. So you had Vanilla Ice, and then you had a group called Third Base. It was like 3 white boys, and MC Search was one of them. And then you had the Beastie Boys, and like that was it at the time. So, but yeah. So even them, like I said, they was like pro-black, Pan-African. Didn't like what they were seeing. Okay, I can get with that. But then it got to the point where they wanted to kill Mantan. I'm like, wait a minute. So the whole Pan-African thing is like, you don't hurt other black people. So that's kind of ironic how they're so pro-black, and at the end, spoiler, they killed a man for the whole world to see. Yeah.
And they made him in a similar way. They made him dance. You know what I'm saying? Like they made him. They, like in the end of the day, it was like this. They did the exact same. It's a weird thing because I almost felt like when I was watching the movie, like I needed to watch it a second time to capture everything, and I still feel that way. I feel like there was things I needed to kind of see a second time to kind of fully capture my thoughts on. And sometimes there's stuff like that. These underlying messages where it's like it's not only about how the world perceives it. It's not only about how they took it on and how fucked up the higher ups in these companies are, and how the audience a lot of times is also at fault for the way that this stuff continues to be created. But also how sometimes the people who want to fix things are against it sometimes end up just kind of making the perception in the world even worse, right? Like now everybody saw that, so it was almost like validating the buffoonery, you know what I'm saying? And it's like just the way that Spike Lee layers all those messages is really what makes the film so strong, even if it doesn't feel like it's a super high production.
Yeah, facts. So then even let's get to Mantan and Sleep and Eat themselves, right? So they started out on the street, tap dancing for pennies. They live in these abandoned buildings where they're eating Spam and shit for dinner. And but your boy's a very talented tap dancer, and Sleep and Eat is the manager. And they finally get their break. They finally get their chance to be in show business, but it's a show where you pretty much you sell your soul. And that's how, and not just black entertainers, but just entertainers, period. A lot of times they have to degrade themselves just to get that opportunity, to get that spotlight, and pretty much selling their soul to the devil. And that's what they did. And Sleep and Eat was the first one to get that revelation, like, dude, this ain't right. Like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie was when Mantan was he was choreographing the dance number or whatever, and then Sleep and Eat comes in there with Tommy Davidson comes in there, and he's like, yo, I'm out, I'm done, I can't do this no more. And by this time, Mantan's feeling himself. He's like, bro, listen, I got a house. I got money. You know what I'm saying? I'm living good. Like, fucking with you, we still be living on the street. And it's like, wow. So you forget where you come from. Like, he's like, stand up. You remember me? Do you remember me? Like, I will knock your ass out. Like, bro, we started together on the same, on that same place. Now all of a sudden you so high and mighty, you feel like you can just disrespect people just because you got a couple of dollars in your pocket. Like, nigga, you sold out. And it's a shame that Bantan didn't get the revelation until later on, because by the time he got his arc, he was dead. So, like, what's your thoughts on those characters?
Yeah, I mean, like, those are the two that I resonated the most with, man. Like, those were the characters that, for me, again, like, seeing that journey from the first time they put the blackface on versus the end, I think is where I really found myself connected, is because, yeah, there you see those two different sides, right? You see, in the end of the day, Man Ray ends up dying, right? And he ends up dying because he sold out on completely, to the point where he was willing to just, and obviously at the end he tried to make a statement, and obviously ends up getting killed. It's like just a little bit too late, essentially, what he tried to do. But
right,
it's this crazy thing where it's like to see the two different sides of it, right? You got Sleep and Eat, who's like, I'm out, and even the little performance he gives on, like, gives him, to be about like gotta get back out there for Master, this, that, and the third. Like, he puts on a little show for him, and he plays the character right before he leaves. And I just thought that was really powerful too. I think for the most part, those two characters are what the heart of the movie really is, And Damon Wayans' character also was really interesting to, like, see him, because at first he's this character that you think is, like, kind of going to be the hero of the story.
Right.
But ultimately ends up being just another villain in the whole.
He's Frankenstein. He's Frankenstein.
Right.
I mean, he created this whole thing, and everything messed up because of him. So, Man Ray died. A big black African died, and it's like the show now is like out of his hands now, where it's going to go on without him. So when you last see him, he's in blackface, and he's like, dude, like what have I done? Because he tried because prior to doing this show, he tried so hard to create, I guess, black television that was, full of integrity, but people didn't want to see that. So it's like, okay, you want me to make some black stuff? Okay, I'm gonna give you the most offensive black show there is, and it takes off.
Right.
And so just imagine that feeling of, okay, I'm gonna prove you wrong, but in me trying to prove you wrong, it became like this global phenomenon, and you're like, fuck, I was wrong.
Right.
So his death was inevitable,
Right, like, and it's interesting too, because you go to that earlier scene in the movie with Michael Rappaport, when he pretty much tells him, like, he was like talking about the other scripts that he wrote. He's like, nobody wants to see, the sitcom about the black family that moved into a suburban neighborhood. Like, it's like the sad reality that's the depiction, and I know I know people who are like that they're like, oh man, they got this commercial where you got these black folk acting civilized. It's like, no, that's not how they'd be. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's insane that a message like this has to be put out into the world, right? But one of the things that was probably one of the most impactful, one of the most uncomfortable. So I was watching this with my fiance, right? And the two of us were all in. We were super into the movie. We were like, plenty of moments we're looking over at each other the whole time, like having a laugh at the fact that Spike Lee went there with so many things in the movie, where you're just like we're looking at each other like, oh my God. Like, the two of us, our faces when we're watching the scene with, like, I mentioned earlier, when, like, we got the audience all in blackface, and specifically you got Granny and you got the other guy saying that, he's the biggest N-word in there, like, all this stuff. You have all these people that are just so delusional, and specifically these white people. I mean, God bless these white people that they got to play these roles, you know what I'm saying? To say these lines, dude, absolutely insane. But my fiance and I just kept, like, kind of like looking at each other like, oh my God, I can't believe they went there. But where it really just leans into the insanity of it all is when you just have that moment later on in the film when Damon Wayans' character has been shot, and we get this reel of black people in TV and film and cartoons from back in the day. And I remember watching older films like that sometimes with my grandpa and seeing these characters, you know what I mean, that were depicted this way. And I never, as a kid, I never really put the two and two together, because I grew up in a world where most of my closest friends are of color. Like, you know, I'm
Right.
Hispanic myself, so you know, like the idea of like minorities in general was just always something that was around. I mean, my best friend Robert is in the room behind me right now.
Mhm.
We were just talking about him there. You know, he's a black man. You know, so
Yeah.
it's something I've never connected with, but to see that like and to see how like there's so much
Mhm.
that just depicts it like y'all like in such a horrible way for so many years.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
absolute insanity, and like so that's kind of like what I said. It's so sad that this has to even be the message has to be pushed as uncomfortably as it is. But
Mhm.
I think that on almost every turn of the movie, I was consistently impressed. There were a couple of moments where I thought to myself, like if I'm getting into criticisms, maybe this is a little bit overly long, maybe this is a little slow right here. The
Right.
production value maybe takes away from certain elements. But
Mhm.
this is one of those movies, and sometimes I would say that the flow of the movie, because there's little time jumps throughout the story,
Mhm.
sometimes felt a little jumbled. You know, like
Right.
sometimes Jada Pickett's character felt like she was on a completely different emotional place in each scene. And there was like little things like that. But
Yeah.
outside of that, man, I feel like when it comes to relaying a message while also telling a story, I think that Spike Lee nailed it
Spike's the
at
best.
at
He's the
every.
best at it, man. Yeah, he's
He
the best
really,
at.
really nailed it, man. Because there's
Yeah. I
times where you
mean,
don't even think about how something is going to connect with something, but then it's kind of like I said before, it's like the movie is about a satire about a satire within a
yeah.
satire. You know, it's just
Right.
so in a similar way. It's kind of like what you were saying about Damon Wayne's character, where he's, you know, like he's put on this fake voice, and he's like he himself is like a satire within a satire. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
it's kind of crazy the way that Spike kind of layers these things. Where again, I almost felt like I needed to give it a rewatch after seeing it. And it's not
Right.
often that I like feel that way with like a movie where like a message where like I might be able to say, oh yeah, I'll rewatch that one day, you know, but or maybe there's the big action movie, like, you know, like the new Marvel movie or something where it's like, oh, I really want to rewatch that, you know, typically to just kind of catch up on little moments of dialogue or like to see it again, whatever. But I love when I watch a movie like this that makes me feel like I took in a lot from the message, but I almost feel like I need to
Mhm.
see it again to see what like little moments are because there's like even small moments of dialogue that
Right.
really lean into the overall message that you could easily miss if you're not paying attention for a second. And like
Facts.
and another scene that really I think just uncomfortably so, but so realistically while also satirically kind of gives off the message of the film is the first writer's room um
Mhm.
scene where all the, you know, the white folk are just so they're just so disconnected
Right.
from the source material that they're about to be writing for, and it's just so blatantly obvious, you know, and it's like you don't think about how often that is the case, but the reality of the situation is that is the case so often, especially back in the
Happens.
day.
Yeah,
Like
it happens all the
now,
time.
so
Yeah.
today, like thankfully, we live in a world where like that is starting to dissipate. There are so many projects about so many minorities that have a
Mhm.
cast and crew and people in writers' room that come from that culture that are allowed to that are
Right.
able to speak a message in. But in 2000, you know, throughout the 90s and the 80s and a lot of that was still really new. You know what I mean? Like people
Mhm.
often forget. You know, I love the line too, and I know I'm just like going off here long winded, but
No, you
I
good.
love
You
the
good.
line as well earlier when they were talking about slavery being like 400 years ago, and he's
Yeah.
like, no, like let's do the math here. Like, you know, it wasn't that long ago, and the sad reality too is like people forget. Like I always remember the fact that my mom was born in '68, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, my mom was born around the same time that Martin Luther King was shot, and
Mhm.
it's it's kind of crazy because it's like you know that wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that was only a few decades away from when you and I were born. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
and now I'm about to be 30 this year. You're in your 40s, right? Like
Yeah.
it's that wasn't that long ago. You know what I'm saying? Like
It
that was only
wasn't.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the same distance as to from when we were born to when that was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
and so it's just kind of like it's kind of crazy to have there are these people that create these excuses, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that was so long
Right.
ago, like that's not really prevalent, but it's like this media,
Well,
the media that all portrayed black people like this, it's not that old, you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? And that's a problem.
Well, you know it. Well, now something interesting is happening. So now it's like, okay, now things have turned around where, like you said, that there's more black writers now. There's more black filmmakers. You know, so so you get the authentic black experience because you actually have black people writing the stuff now. But it seems like something interesting is happening where, you know, it's almost like now they're overcompensating, trying to really like put us on a pedestal now almost. Like, you know, like we're so sorry about how we treated you. Like, here we want to put you up here now. Like, dude, you ain't gotta put me on no fucking pedestal. Just, you know, just write the shit the way it is. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
you don't have to make us all, you know, high and mighty and, you know, yes, I'm so sorry. You know, please forgive me for slave. Motherfucker, you didn't enslave me. Okay, you ain't gotta apologize for shit. But at the same time, you're not gonna make me out to look like I'm a fucking, you know, bumbling idiot.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah, like don't make me fucking God. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
just right, like even playing field, write the shit the way it is, you know. And I noticed that with a lot of projects now where, you know, like some white folks are trying to be like, you know, yes, we have to do this to make, you know, to pander to black people. No, don't pander to. We don't want pandering. Okay, we don't want pandering. Don't give a shit just because we black. God damn it, give it to us because we're talented and we're smart. You know, I don't like that shit. But at the same time, we are going a step in the right direction because you probably don't remember this. There was a stretch in the late 90s, like the mid to late 90s. There was a network called UPN, right? They used to tease, they say underpaid Negroes, but it was a network called UPN, and it was mostly black shows. So you had a show like they had Homeboys in Outer Space. They had a show called Moesha. They had a show. It was about slavery, but it was a sitcom about slavery where the butler was like the main character. It was showed from his perspective. It's weird. You can look it up on YouTube, and I forgot the name of it. But if you Google slave sitcom from the 90s, I guarantee you it'll come up. Somebody might mention in the comments. So it was the 90s, Perez, where there were these black shows that came out, and they were so like black exploitation in the 70s didn't have nothing on this shit. We were pants sagging, ignorant, drinking 40s and shit, you know what I'm saying? Like just totally ignorant, and we weren't checking for that shit. So what do? They pulled the plug. They made their money, but guess what? They pulled the plug, they made their money, and they turned UPN into the CW. So the CW exists because of UPN.
That's kind of crazy to think. Yeah, that's crazy. Me, right before we hopped on the stream, I was watching an episode of Batwoman from the CW, so it's come a long way. I see somebody drop the name of the show.
That's the name of the show, yes. The Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer. Perez, I promise you, that's the actual thing, bro. That I think it lasted maybe.
Man, unfortunately, I do believe you.
Yeah, it lasted like 3 episodes, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing, man? I mean, you even had shows like the Wayans Brothers, and don't get me wrong, you know, I like Sean and Marlon Wayans, but you watch their sitcom, man. They were, you know, some ignorant tap dancing Negroes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, even Cinematic Tendency knew that. Yeah, Secret Diary of Desmond Pfeiffer. Yep.
Cinematic be knowing he knows those deep cuts. You know what I'm saying? He knows.
Yeah.
Sure.
They have some episodes that were weird. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. It's just kind of crazy, you know. Like it's insane to how many things have done that, and like kind of like you said. Then there's the stuff today that maybe takes it in the wrong direction. The perfect example for me is funny that you were just talking about the CW. So I've been catching up. I fell behind a couple seasons of the CW like DC shows, the Arrowverse, but I loved it at first. I plan on doing a YouTube video on it at some point, but there's so much of it that I gotta kind of wrap my head around it all. But one of the shows that I've been watching with Rob, he's been helping me catch up, and so we were watching through Black Lightning. I don't know if you've seen that show, but man, that show just I feel like even for you, it would make you like shake your head because like you know it's like a you know centered on a black guy, and I'll say the main actor who plays Black Lightning, he's great. I really like him in the role. I think he's cool, but the writing it like goes out of its way to like the first episode. I think within the first like 3 minutes, like he gets like pulled over and is like being treated terribly by a cop, and it's like every episode has like just multiple scenes where it's just like it's leaning so heavily into the injustice of, like between blacks and whites where it almost undercuts itself sometimes. I don't know if you've ever seen a show or a movie that's done that where it's like trying to have this message, but at times it just like lays it on so thick. There's a part where they're fighting these white people in the show and they're like albino white people. It's like a group of albino white people, and they make it so they make it so like whites against blacks that it becomes
Mm-hmm.
almost becomes a little comedic at times, you know.
Right.
Whereas you could have a good message about some stuff, but sometimes it's almost like so on the nose
Yeah, so
that
heavy-handed. Yeah.
right that it just almost undercuts what it's trying to do. And I've been watching it with Rob, and even Rob will be just like sitting there, he just looks over at me. Like,
That's a little too much. Yeah, see,
right.
shit like that. I mean, I like authenticity. You know what I'm saying? But when you do stuff like that, man, it's like, come on, man. Yeah, come on. We ain't got to do that.
Right.
You
Whereas
know?
this movie though is the perfect example of how to do it in this like because like Black Lightning takes itself seriously, right? Like it's a show that takes itself seriously. It's like supposed to be a goofy comic book show, but then it has like these serious like messages. Whereas this show is so self-aware and so stupid at times that when it hits those messages, it really comes down to the visionary element coming from Spike Lee. Like he found that balance of comedy and serious tone that like by the time the movie's over, you were just entertained while also being wildly like uncomfortable. Like I felt uncomfortable while watching this. But again, it was like then there was times where I'm catching myself entertained by the man tan and sleep and eat sections of the movie. Like their little shows were actually fun because they're giving a good performance. But, so then you as an audience member are almost questioning yourself as why the hell are you entertained by watching this? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a weird thing. Like I think the Spike Lee, I don't know if that was his intention, but like
I think that was his intention. And you got to think too, Tommy Davidson. You know, he comes from the sketch world with the show in Living Color. You know what I'm saying? He was on Living Color for like 5 seasons. So like that's what he does. And you know, Savion Glover, who plays Man Ray, he's like, you know, he had a tap dancer show on Broadway called Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk, which has been going for years. So these two are like masters at the sketch and the stage stuff, man. So that's why you were entertained by that. And I think Spike did that on purpose to make you be like, okay, this is funny, but no, damn, I'm a piece of shit for laughing at this, and it makes you think. And even down to the advertisements, okay? So even the advertisements, which is satire as well, they showed the bomb malt liquor. So back then, I don't think they sell 40 ounces no more, but back then 40 ounces was a thing. Like I went through my 40-ounce phase, man, where I was drinking 40s and shit. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where I grew up. That was the norm. You know, when I would go to the store, they would have the posters of Ice Cube with his Jerry curl with a bottle of St. Ives, like, you know, drink this. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you didn't drink 40s back then, you know, you was considered a punk. So you had the bomb malt liquor, which was in a clear soda bottle, okay? And then you had the Tommy Hill nigga, which, you know, of course, was for Tommy Hilfiger. Now, I don't know if Tommy Hilfiger is still a thing, but back when I was in high school, if you had Tommy Hilfiger, you was guaranteed to get some ass. All right. Tommy Hilfiger was that shit. It was expensive as hell, but you almost robbed your moms just to get you some Tommy Hilfiger. But there was even a message in that because Tommy Hilfiger was made by this nerdy white dude. You know what I'm saying? Who didn't even like black people. And he even said, like, dude, I don't make my shit for black people. But yet but because of us, because of black folks, Tommy Hilfiger's on the map. Ain't that some shit? Right. But because you see rappers with it, because you see entertainers with it, you know, there's a market now for these jeans because of us, but you didn't make it for us. You know, so there's like all kind of messages, even in the advertisements in that movie, made me feel guilty. Because I said I had a couple of pair of Tommy Hilfiger jeans. I was proud of that shit back then. But then watching the movie, I said, damn, I want to burn them shits now. You know, the bomb malt liquor. I'm like, dude, what the fuck was I doing drinking malt liquor? Like, Perez, I like to drink, but you'll never see me with no damn malt liquor. I will never drink malt, even if it's a last resort. I will never put no malt liquor to my lips, man. It's cracking the can.
I can't say that I've ever had any inclination to drink malt liquor myself. Yeah, I saw that comment. So yeah, Tobias Whale, he's the main bad guy. Great. He was arguably one of the best parts of the show in terms of like his performance and stuff. But yeah, he's an albino black man, and so they make it like he's like the one black man that the white people work with in the show. That's like because he's white essentially, and it's like he gives a good performance, but like at times it's just like when you're watching the show, like it's I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. Like I almost wish you would watch it just to make videos on it, just to hear what you say.
Nah, yeah, I'm intrigued, man. I've been hearing about that show for a minute, but like I heard most people say it started out real good, but then it kind of went on a decline a little bit. Where
man, I think it's weak. I think it's so weak. I was hoping it'd be good, but
yeah. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Mike?
in the house.
How's it going, man?
Yeah, supposed to be on this channel in a couple of days on the Z Talks. Looking forward to that. I like doing the Z Talks.
Oh yeah, I gotta respond to him. He wants me to join him for Thursday, but I had to. I might hop on for a little bit.
Okay, all right, yeah, nah, definitely, man. Because I like Z Talks because everybody like he has like people ask these crazy ass questions, and I'm like, dude, like, what the fuck? How do I answer that? I remember Tommy Hilfiger. Yeah, Tommy Hilfiger was back then. Shit, what? Lovely, what's good, girl? I still gotta watch your review for Ant-Man. I saw the little short that she did, but I didn't watch the review yet. Cracking, yes, man. Malt liquor is nothing but crack in a can, straight up.
All
So
right,
character
man.
worth watching on Black Lightning. Because man, back in the day, Perez, I used to drink St. Ives because of Ice Cube. I used to drink Steel Reserve. Yes, this is stuff called 211 Steel Reserve. It's called high gravity lager. Okay. So anything called a high gravity lager, once you put that shit to your lips, you're done for. You know what I'm saying? That stuff makes you, that shit made me crazy.
That's crazy. I'd be interested to try it if it's
Nah,
still
you
out there.
don't want to put that shit in your body, man. Because of black folks, Timberlands became a big thing. Yes, Tim's, yeah,
That's
even
another
Tim's.
one. Yeah,
Especially in New York, where I came from. Yo, if you had Tim's and some Tommies, yo, you was in. You was in.
Really quickly, I want to mention what Supremo said in there. Yeah, I do agree that Tobias Whale was the only character that's worth watching. Black Lightning for sure.
Okay.
And the daughters, man. Yeah, so both the Black Lightning's daughters get superpowers, and they just like, bro, it's just so poorly done. It's like just like as a story, and like it's like you're watching it. You know what's another thing that's interesting about it is that something that just ruins the show for me. And I'm curious. I know that Spoiler Kings and Supremo commented about Black Lightning. I know we're not talking about Black Lightning, but bro,
yeah,
the intros for the Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, all those, Batwoman, there's like little like the intro pops up, like the logo pops up, and there's like some sort of like musical score that plays that's like the character's theme, and then it gets into it. So if it starts with like an emotional beginning or like a serious beginning, it leans into that, and it's a kind of like a cool intro. With Black Lightning, bro, it busts into a quick rap, like when his logo pops up, and it always takes me out of it, man. Like I can't because it's so cheesy. Like so, it'll be like an emotional moment. Like the intro will be an emotional moment, and it'll like end with these two characters like emotionally hugging each other, or somebody's like in a serious situation. Somebody just got killed, and then it pops into this rap where I think the lyrics are like, I met a superhero. He was black. He said, I do it for the streets. Black Lightning's back. And I'm just like, every time it plays, bro, like me and Robert just look at each other like, God. Because sometimes we forget that it's coming. Sometimes we forget it's coming. And then we're thinking, oh, man, this is a good scene. Like the performance here is good. It's kind of dark and serious. And then bust into that rap. And I'm just like, dude, I can't. Anyway, no more Black Lightning. But
no more Black. Nah, I'm intrigued, man. I want to check that out. Yo, Mickey's. Yeah, I drunk Mickey's one time, and I couldn't do Mickey's, man. Nah, it was either St. Ives, Steel Reserve, or what's the one with the bull on the front? They used to have the commercial where the bull would bust through the wall. I think it was called Schlitz or something like that. I used to drink those too. Yeah, damn, lovely. I didn't know you was on them malt liquors, girl. God, dog. Oh shit! Learn something new every day. The very first time I ever heard about malt liquor was in the movie Double Take back in 2000. Shit, listen, I grew up and my mom and them would throw like parties, like little house parties and shit back in the day. And the only thing I remember, Perez, is Jerry Curls and not St. Ives, but Old English 800. That's the OG malt liquor. I don't know if they still sell those, but yeah, I remember it's because we call it Old Gold, but it's Old English 800. So I seen a lot of that and a lot of Jerry Curls. And a lot of back then they called it reefer. They didn't even call it weed. They called it reefer back then. They would put the weed in the zigzag papers and shit. They'd be having that in their mouth like, yeah, boy, goddamn, hey, we'll go to that motherfucker right there. Boy, look like your goddamn daddy there, boy. Shit, hey, me never had a man for that, boy. You know. Yeah, I seen all that growing up, but once again, you know, that's off of shit that they seen in movies and the commercials. Because, bro, back then, when they showed malt liquor commercials, it was always to black people. You never seen a white person advertise malt liquor. They use Billy D. Williams. All right, Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian himself used to promote Colt 45. Swear to God, is Colt 45 even still a thing? Have you ever heard of Colt 45, Perez?
I've heard of it. Yeah, yeah. I've never had it, but yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. How the beer start off flat. Yeah, that old goal that I was crazy horse. But Billy D. Williams. This is back when he played Lando Calrissian. All right, so there's a commercial with him, and there's this fine looking chick behind him, right, with a hand on his shoulder, kind of based off my Moonshine to Kill You skit that I did. So you got Billy D. Williams sitting there in a suit with the can of Colt 45, woman's hand on his shoulder, and he's like, there's 2 rules that had to follow if you want to have a good time. Rule number 1, never run a Colt 45. And rule number 2, never forget rule number 1.
I love that you had that prop just chilling there, like you were ready for that. You're like, I'm gonna put this here for when I make my malt liquor.
No, I just happen to have it here, man. I just used it as a kid, man. But yeah, like all those malt liquor commercials was they always had a black person starring in the commercial, and it was two black people, right? I never saw too many white people drinking malt liquor. To be honest with you, that shit was like more directed to us, and that stuff makes you stupid, you know. I mean, personally, I think they should ban it, to be honest with you. But I like how the movie showed, like the way it was in the movie. That's how they used to do that shit for real.
It's funny that you said that with Billy D too, because I think about him in Undercover Brother when he plays the general, and they get him to be like the fake spokesperson for General's Fried Chicken.
Right.
Kind of the same idea, you know, like kind of like selling this thing to the black audience.
And fried chicken. Yeah, if you remember, there was a rapper called MC Hammer, and this is the moment where MC Hammer lost his black card when this motherfucker did a KFC commercial selling popcorn chicken. So this dude, he's doing his hammer dance, you know, with the popcorn chicken. Get you some KFC popcorn chicken, proper, you know, hammer. I'm like, this motherfucker lost his mind. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Lovely know what I'm talking about. So yeah, man. So anything else you want to add about the movie? Like, you know, any scenes any scenes that you was like, well, maybe we could have did it without this, or, you know, or any character that you've been like, yeah, that character really wasn't needed, you know. Any other criticisms?
I would say the main thing I would probably say I have a criticism with is sometimes how the movie flows, like I mentioned, like where you know, just randomly one scene you got Man Ray walking with Jada Pinkett Smith's character, and he's like hitting on her, and then like a few times later that you see them, they're like together, like in the limo together, and then like you never really feel like you have the film doesn't progress like a typical narrative where like you feel like you see those things unfold. You know, like sometimes you'll just go from one place to the next, and you just see that that's a thing. So you just kind of have to buy into like, okay, they're an item now, or they've been fooling around now. And then by the time you get to the end, you know, she was kind of like all like, you never see like Jada Pinkett Smith's character, for instance, learn that her brother died. You know, it just happened, and then she just shows up with a gun, and she's like ballistic and kills Damon Wayans' character. So there was just times where the film felt a little bit all over the place, but at the same time, it's still focused enough for you to still really enjoy the movie. So that was probably one of my biggest criticisms throughout, was like at times it just felt a little bit jumpy in terms of how the story is told. But beyond that, man,
that's Spike Lee though. Like if you watch majority of Spike Lee movies, they're like that. It's very rare to see a Spike Lee movie where it's like a tight narrative that like really flows consistently. Maybe Inside Man probably, but for the most part, like if you watch most of his stuff, most of his movies are like that.
Right, but then I think it's something like
the right thing was like that as well.
Right, but Do the Right Thing, at least kind of like you could follow where the like it might have jumped with that movie. It jumped around to a bunch of different characters with different things going on. But when you got back to the last characters, when you get back to characters again later on, you feel like you still follow their journey. So like I think specifically of Giancarlo Esposito's character in that movie. Like he sometimes will disappear for chunks of the movie. You don't see him again, but when you see him again, he's still on his warpath of what he's doing. Like so, you kind of could follow all the characters. And part of that movie is that it's jumbled, but it's got all the characters moving in their own directions.
That's what you're saying.
Coalesces at the end. Where at this movie, at times it just felt like we're kind of jumping some time, and the characters are kind of in a different place or more connected with each other than they were before. Or you know, like you never really see Sleep and Eat like make that decision for himself that he's going to stop doing this. It just jumps to that scene where he's telling, you know, Man Ray like, hey, let's not do this anymore, and then he leaves. So at times I feel like it was a little bit jumbled in that way. But yeah, man, beyond that, dude, I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was really well made, especially for purposefully being made on a lower budget to an extent. And the fact that the film like And the fact that the film is so anti-cinematic, I don't know if that's the way
Yeah.
to put it, but like it's so not cinematic. It feels like something that you and I could film together. Like
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it has that like lack of cinema almost in a way, but really stands on its script and its dialogue and its actors, I think is really where the film shines.
Right, facts. And I read too because after I watched the movie, I like to go to IMDb and read the trivia, and I read that the scene where after they kill Man Ray, right, and the cops come up and they shoot like the whole rap group down or whatever, and they let the white dude live. So
Right.
I heard that was based off of a real event where there was a gang committing some crimes and the police came and mowed down the whole gang, and the white dude was still alive. And the white dude was like, dude, like, well, why didn't you kill me? Like, I'm part of the well, why'd you let me live? And they without saying a word, just took him to jail. And I was like, well, damn, ain't that some shit? Yeah.
I mean, it pains me that that's a reality for a lot of situations, and of course, we still see it to this day. Like
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, because remember the movie I gave you, Higher Learning, the same thing,
right.
at the end where Michael Rappaport as Remy, he actually was a sniper, killed Tyra Banks, and when Omar Epps goes to confront him and he's beating the shit out of him when the cops come, they don't go after the guy that had the gun, they beat the shit out of Omar Epps.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they fuck him up, and Michael Rappaport tries to get away, and instead of them jacking him up, they just say, hey, no, it's okay, no, everything is gonna be all right, please just put the gun down, please, you can still be an engineer, everything's gonna be okay, son. And you see Omar Epps saying like, damn, how come I couldn't get that same treatment? I just came and beat the shit out of me. It's good. That's why it kills me when people, not to get too deep into this shit, but that's why it kills me when people say, "Oh, well, he resisted arrest. He shouldn't have resisted. If he would have resisted, he would still be here." Man, whether you resist or not, man, if they see you as a threat, you're a threat.
Right. I mean, look what just happened to that guy. I feel terrible that I don't remember his name, but the individual recently who was killed by the cops, and it was all by black cops. So it's just like, dude, absolutely insane.
Just police. Period, man. I told the story before. I told the story before. Me and my daughter just got through seeing the movie Up. At the theater. She was 4 years old at the time. And dude, just got done seeing a Disney movie. We both water bags, enjoying it, talking about it. Man, cop got behind me and trailed me for about a good half a mile and finally pulls me over. And so the reason was I had just bought that car, and the person I bought it from gave me a bill of sale paper because I bought it over the weekend. So he says, okay, if you get pulled over, show him this bill of sale because the DMV doesn't open till Monday. You know what I'm saying? So show him that. Tell me, Monday you're going to get the registration for it. Whatever. So before I even got to that part, right, I pulled the car over, right, rolled the window down, turned the engine off like I was supposed to. But the mistake that I made, which I didn't know at the time, was supposed to have your hands on the steering wheel. See, at the time I didn't know that. I had my hands down like this. So I'm just nonchalantly just sitting there like this, right? Like, oh, here we go. So the cop walked up on me, right? But he can clearly see what my hands were. I wasn't reaching for nothing. He was like, what are you reaching for? Why are you reaching? I'm like, I'm not reaching. Put your hands where I can see them. I said, shit, here. Okay, man. I said, we ain't got no problem. He's like, yeah, put your hands where I can see them right now. And I was scared. Like, my heart was going like this motherfucker almost shot me, man. And my daughter's right in the seat. She's looking like, what the hell's going on? So he pulls me out the car, man. Pulls me out the car. It has me stand to the back. His partner shows up. They're both talking and shit. My daughter, I can hear, she's like, Dad, I have to use the bathroom. I said, officer, can I go see about my daughter? No, you stay right there. Don't you move. And the whole time, Dad, I'm like, Renee, just give me a second, baby. I'm coming. And I'm like, eyes shrunk wrapped with tears. Like, I'm so angry and enraged. Like, this motherfucker, So make a long story longer. He came back. He says, okay, we're going to give you a break this time because you were driving safe. You weren't, but you got to make sure Monday you get this registered. But technically, I could take you to jail for this because this bill of sale wasn't filled out right or some shit like that. He said to me, but I'm gonna give you a break this time. You let me go, and the first thing I did was call the first white person I knew and cursed him out. I ain't gonna lie. I called up the first white person I knew, man. I cursed his ass out. You motherfucker! He's like, what the hell is this problem?
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I mean, I hate to hear that story, man. Like, it's just sad reality, you know. And it's just crazy
Yeah.
because like I've had my interactions with cops, but you know, outside of like
Mhm.
maybe one, like most interactions
Right.
I've had with cops have been pretty like, howdy, officer, how can I help you today? Well, I'd like to see your license
Exactly.
and registration, sir. You know what I'm saying? Like I can remember a time, and it just goes to show like just the sad reality. I remember I was working at a movie theater in this area,
Mhm.
and in this one area, like maybe like 45 minutes from where I live right now. And I had just gotten off of work, and me and one of my coworkers decided to smoke some loud reefer right behind the theater. And I got in my
Yeah.
car and I rolled out shortly after. And bro, I know I was skunking it up, dude. Like I smelled terrible. Well, my dumb ass didn't turn my lights on, and it was nighttime. And it was like
Mm.
street lights, a bunch of street lights, so I didn't notice. So I get pulled over, and I'm freaking out, you know, and I know I smell
Yeah.
loud, and I blast the AC thinking that's gonna help, even though I know that probably just blew it into his face. And the officer came up and he mentioned that he smelled something, but he gave me no hard time, you know. And it's just like that sad
Mhm.
reality that like because
Yeah.
of my skin color, like I been a different skin color, that could have gone differently. You know what I mean?
That
Could have
could
wanted
have
to
been. It
search
could
my
have been
car,
very
maybe
bad.
steal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you know, I'm thinking, is there a problem, officer? He's like, son, your lights are off. You know, like all kind of like
Mhm.
almost like Woody from Toy Story. You know what I'm saying? It's just you know, it's crazy. I've only had one bad experience with a cop, like a really bad
Yeah.
experience, and that was because one of my friends we were teenagers, decided to do like the ding dong ditch, kind of like knock on someone's door. They called the cops. They
Mhm.
pulled us over. Cop was like,
Yeah.
if you would have kicked on my door, I would have put a shotgun to your face, son." I'm like,
Oh shit.
"Thanks, officer."
Yeah, nah, yeah, for well, you know, and now like I haven't had too many bad interactions because I have to overdo it. So if a cop pulls me over, you know, especially living here in the South, I have to oversell it. So I can't just say, "What's the problem, officer?" I have to say, "Hello, officer. What seems to be the problem?" Well, this, that, whatever. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, I have my. Can I reach my license, sir? I have my license in my wallet, sir. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, everything is sir, or ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. And 9 times out of 10, they won't fuck with you. As long as you show them that respect and that that you acknowledge that they're an authority and they're in power, they won't fuck with you. Not 9 times out of 10.
Right.
Yeah, I have to use my proper voice. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm gonna let you go because I like your attitude. You have a good attitude. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you, sir. You gotta do. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, I believe it, man. I believe it's a
Yeah,
sad reality, man. It's a sad
yeah,
reality.
yeah. As long as I stay dialed up, yeah, lovely, yeah, you'll have no problem, man. All you gotta do is bat your eyes and give a wink and a smile, and you know, and that's it. You might even ask for your damn number. Hold up, but there was a comment that I saw here that was yeah, the Remy character. Yes, Dylan Roof and Kyle Rittenhouse. Definitely that Remy character from Higher Learning was definitely like those two, man.
Right, for
And
sure.
what they have in common, they all live to see another day. All right, so yeah, so we're wrapping up the review for the movie. Uh I give it, I saw your letterbox grade, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and give your grade, your or your score, whatever. But yeah, I give Bamboozled, I give it an A+. Now the problems that you have with it, I didn't have with it, but now hearing you explain it, I see what you're talking about. But still, I just love it so much where I can overlook that and still give it a perfect score because it's one of those movies, man, where you think about it after you watch it, it stays on your mind, it makes you think, it challenges you, and I like when a movie can do that, man. And that's one of Spike Lee's best. If I would say, I would put Bamboozled behind, I say Do the Right Thing is number one, Malcolm X number two, then I would put Bamboozled number three. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, I
I might
definitely
even
need to
do a
watch
top
more
10.
Spike Lee movies for sure. I feel like that's something like doing the Spike Lee films that we've done. Makes me realize I need to watch more.
Yeah, yeah. But the one thing about Spike Lee, okay, well, I think one of his because none of us are without sin. One of the things that you might find this movie's kind of weird is that Spike Lee doesn't know how to end a movie a lot of times. So especially his earlier movies. Like if you watch his earlier movies, he does not know. He'll just end it abruptly, and it's like that was a weird fucking ending. Like what the
Right, right.
where the hell did that come from? Have you ever seen School Days? I think that was like his second movie.
I don't think I have now.
Okay, yeah. The School Days had a very. I now I understand the ending. I know what he was trying to do, but at the time I was like, "What the fuck kind of ending was that?" So yeah, that's one of his that's his kryptonite is ending a film. You know.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so A plus for me. Nothing I can say bad about it. Just overall perfect film. But I'm gonna let you give your grader or your score.
Yeah. So for me, well, I don't really do scores on my channel. You know that because I always kind of free flow. So
That's right.
even
That's
with
right.
with
That's right.
with Letterbox, I'll score stuff a lot of times. But bro,
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times I go in like a day or two after and I change it, either bring it down
Right.
or bring it up. I did that with Ant-Man recently. I gave it a 3, then I
Mm-hmm.
brought it up to a 3.5, and then I brought it back
Okay.
down to a 3. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I feel about that. But
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with this one, I think that most of my score would go towards just how strong the message is.
Mm-hmm.
And the only things that kind of lose some points towards me for me are like the cinematic part of it, the part of that makes it appealing to watch in some ways. And then some of those like story things. So I ended up giving it a 3.5, but I was very close to giving it a 4 out of
Okay.
5 stars.
Okay.
But I think undoubtedly, I think the best part about film criticism is just the way that it can make you talk about things. And there are so
Right.
many movies that I've watched that I'd give a 3.5 that I was like, oh yeah, it was a good time. I thought that it was really well made,
Mm-hmm.
action packed, or really like fun and engaging, good time. But sometimes even some of those movies, like as good as they may be on a one-time watch or something, they don't have an abundance for you to really say about them. And in the
Right.
case of a movie like this, even though I did give it a 3.5 versus a 4, I think it's also just as deserving as a 4 or 5. So if I heard anybody like yourself saying you're giving it a perfect score, I wholeheartedly see why, because
Mm-hmm.
it's wholly unique. The film, I
Right.
can't think of a single other movie I've ever seen that reminds me or
Mm-hmm.
has been able to capture that same level of the tone of serious and silly as well as this movie has for such a
Right.
serious message. Like it's
Right.
not getting across it's not like it just has like a little hokey pokey silly message. Like it's got a serious message. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, man. Overall, 3.5 stars out of 5. Personally,
Nice.
out of with some of my criticisms just from where I come from as a movie fan, but
Mm-hmm.
overall, as far as the story and message, characters, acting, top tier for sure.
Nice.
I,
Yeah.
I would,
Lovely.
I
That.
would, I'm even gonna say this might be
Mm.
something people don't agree with, but of the, I think it, I would say that I like this more than most Spike Lee films I've seen, even the more
Mm.
cinematic films. I would even almost say, based on the ones that we've done together, that I think I enjoyed this more than Do the Right Thing.
Oh
So
wow, that's a bold
yeah,
statement.
yeah. So
That's
I
a
mean,
that's a
I'll
bold
I'll say
statement.
that, right? Yeah,
Okay. Well, shit. Let's keep the Spike Lee train going then. I don't think we done Jungle Fever yet.
we have not. No.
Okay. So that's gonna be the next one, Jungle Fever.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. Spike Lee,
Cool, man.
Wesley Snipes, Annabella. Ooh, I can never pronounce her last name. Annabella Cicera. They had John Turturro, Samuel Jackson, Ruby D, Ozzie Davis. Let's see who else is in there. There's a lot of familiar faces in that movie. Tim Robbins is in there. Chucky is in there. The guy who played Chucky. Yeah. So
Brad Dourif.
Bad Dora. Yeah, he's in there. So yeah, that's our next one.
All
Jungle
right,
Fever. Yeah, A
A
plus.
plus.
Yep,
I'm black
Blacktastic.
casting.
Yeah, yeah. All right, man. So I'm gonna give you the opportunity to plug your channel and what you got coming up and all that good stuff.
Cool, man. Thanks. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, and thanks for everybody who watched this live or after the fact, whatever the case. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing us talk about this movie. So probably the most notable thing, Rashad and I have slowly been going through while he got me checking out movies like this. I currently have him checking out the Harry Potter series. So if you guys are a fan of the Harry Potter series, or maybe not fans of the Harry Potter series, this has been a really interesting ride because I am a huge fan of those movies, and Rashad has not been a huge fan. He's liked some things and certain
One of them.
installments, but he's like
One of
one
them.
of them really. And we're I think 5-6 movies in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys can find that over on my channel if you guys want. There's a playlist there. Rashad and I talking about all the Harry Potter movies. I give Rashad a Harry Potter wig in some of the thumbnails. He looks like Justin Bieber is Harry Potter. Yeah,
Hey,
it's been a
man.
blast to talk about, and yeah, you can always catch me on my YouTube channel for a bunch of movie reviews, and I'm going to start trying to do some more live streams. I just did a interview with the director of a movie called The Other Fellow, a movie I highly recommend too. I don't know if whoever has not seen The Other Fellow, really dope. It's about about a bunch of people who share the name James Bond and about the
Mm,
hardships and the good things that come from having the name James Bond in the real world, but also
nice.
obviously James Bond being who James Bond is. So I got to interview that director. I also reviewed the movie. I'm also covering the Land Before Time series with our buddy Mike from Did You See That, which is probably going to be my next video. We're talking about the 6th installment out of 14. Be lucky I didn't get you to do. Be lucky I didn't ask you to do the Land Before Time series.
There's 14 of those movies.
14, bro. We're only on the 6th one.
Golly.
I know.
I thought it was like probably like 3 or 4. I know it was 14 of them bitches.
14, bro. I got the DVD collection, and I was like, God damn, 14 movies.
Golly.
But yeah, so anyway, got a lot of stuff over there. Definitely a big thanks to you, Rashad, for having me on. You guys can find the link, I'm sure, down below, or just type in my name, because I think finally I am the first Anthony Perez to pop up on YouTube now when you type it in. Took a little bit because I got the most generic name of all time. But you know, I finally did it. And I guess a little tidbit is today officially, and I know I texted you about it the other day, Rashad, but today officially I was approved for YouTube monetization.
Yes, congrats.
The first time I mentioned it. So after
Congrats,
almost 5 years and like almost 800 videos later, I'm finally making some chump change from my
That's
YouTube
what's up.
videos.
Yeah, congrats, man. Congrats. Yeah, you do the live stream, man. Try to, put somebody in that super chat there too. You know what I'm saying? That's another way to get some revenue from your on your channel. Yeah.
Right,
I just thought something randomly too, man. Thinking about how, like I said, how black people were done in film and video and stuff, and even cartoons that we grew up loving. Like one of my favorite cartoons growing up, bro, was Tom and Jerry. I love to this day, I'll still watch Tom and Jerry. That's like my favorite shit, man. And all these years, man, I just, like remember have you watched Tom and Jerry before, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Funny. Yeah.
The black maid who you never see her face. All you see is her from the knees down. She has these ugly ass stockings with these big ass black feet. And she's always talking shit to Tom, Tom, you better get your behind there before I skin you alive. Just the most stereotypical mammy type shit. But at the time as a kid, like I'm thinking it's funny, man. But now I'm like, dude, they did us so wrong in the cartoons, man. Like even like with the Looney Tunes, which a lot of that stuff now, I think they burned that shit. Like I don't even know if you can find those cartoons anymore, but they did us so dirty in those cartoons, man. Like, wow, dude. Okay, there's even a specific, you can probably find this on YouTube, bro. There's a specific Tom and Jerry episode where the mammy goes off somewhere, right? She goes to some kind of party or whatever. And when she comes back, Tom fucked the whole house. The whole house just got demolished, right? So when the house goes down, Tom pops up, but his face is supposed to be burnt from the chimney, but he's blackface. So she sees Tom and she's like, hey, have you seen a no good dirty cat around here? And he starts talking like, he's like, I ain't seen no cat around here. No way, no how. It's like, Tom, I know that's you. And she goes after him. And I'm like, okay. Wow. So that they've had Tom on that shit, man.
I mean, it's true. I mean, look at freaking even right now what's happening. I know a lot of people had a lot of opinions on it, and I love the ride, but they recently closed Splash Mountain at Magic Kingdom at Disney. I don't know if you know too much about why that is, but the movie that ride is based on, it's called Song of the South. It's one of the only Disney movies that's not available on Disney Plus and will not be on Disney Plus at any time.
Right.
And definitely got some racial undertones or some pretty blaring, yeah, you can find some clips online, but the ride is like deals with like the cartoon characters from the movie. Like in the movie, there's like an older black gentleman and who's like on a plantation. That's where the movie takes place.
What's his name? Uncle Remus or some shit like that.
Yeah. And he's out there with Brer Rabbit and all them. But like when you go to the ride, it's like as much as it's as much as it is a silly ride with like silly stuff, all those voices you were just doing, that accent, like that's all the characters sound like on that ride.
Oh wow.
Like, come on, Brer Rabbit, like all that, like it's just like that exact kind of like thing. Like all the characters talk that way. Like that's the accent of all the cartoon characters. So when you ride Splash Mountain, I wrote it on the last day that it was available to ride, or a couple of days before. But like it's part of my childhood. Like I don't view it racially, but so like it's not that I look at it that way. I don't think the ride is racist, but it comes from a certain place.
That's where it came from. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we got the new ride that they're going to replace it with is Princess and the Frog, which is I would say a Disney cartoon focusing on black characters that is far more kindly representative of the black culture. Yeah.
Wow. So is that the reason why they shut the ride down? Was because of
Yeah.
that?
Well, I mean, probably because they wanted to refurbish it, but like they wanted to move away, especially in the last few years. There was a lot of discussion when Disney Plus was coming around that, you know, the whole thing was like everything Disney has done is going to be on here, old, new, this, that, and the third. And one of the biggest things was Song of the South, you know, and that wasn't going to make an appearance because of
Yeah, well, I
just
mean,
how
it
boring
did. The movie did. I mean, I've never seen Song of the South, but I heard about the Uncle Remus character, and I guess that was one of the what they call mystical, magical Negro characters that you see in films in the future, like Scatman Crothers in The Shining, or Will Smith, Legend of Bag of Vance. Like that one black character that's like real spiritual and all wise and all knowledgeable. Yeah, they call it the mystical, magical Negro. Oh man,
yeah, that's definitely something else. Oh, thank you, lovely. I appreciate that. Thank you. It was definitely a journey. Later, Mike. Sleep well,
Damn,
bro.
117. Golly, party animal.
Yeah, I remember the times I never really thought about it back in the day, but when I was doing Random Ramblings, like that live stream series, I remember I had Mike on and I like asked him to be on a couple times, like at like 9 o'clock at night, our time here in Florida. So over there, he was like 2 a.m, just like
2 a.m.
like half asleep, like doing these live streams. But yeah, real quick, just I saw some of the comments there from Lovely and from Mike about congratulating me. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Let me put those up there. Yeah.
No, yeah, you're good. It's just want to say
good
thanks.
shit, man.
I really appreciate it. It's been a journey, and Rashad knows that I've talked about jumping ship multiple times, but
and I would have kicked your ass too if you would did that, man. Because dude,
it was tough sometimes, man.
Yeah, well, listen, man. You like I said, being on this YouTube journey, like when I first started watching YouTube movie reviews, man. Of course, I watched all the Jeremy Johns and the Stuckmans and the Schmoes and Double Toasted, man. But now that we had this community, like when Ant-Man a movie drops like that, y'all's the first one I go to. I go to you, Q, Blacktastic, Mike, Jacob. Like I watch Lovely. I watch all y'all shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Before I don't even watch Jeremy Johns and them anymore. I mean, not to say I don't fuck with him, like, but but because I have a personal relationship with y'all, I value your opinion more than theirs because what I'm saying, because I fuck with y'all, because I know y'all, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, man, if you left, I would have kicked your ass, man.
Yeah, man, trust me, it was. I'm glad I stuck through, man. I'm glad I'm stuck through, because more than anything, like people always be like, you're not going to make like $1 million when you get monetized, right? I'm like, I know. I just want to feel like what I'm doing is growing. I want to feel like it's like I'm getting somewhere. So, there was periods of time over the last 4 years where I was just like ready to jump ship, man. But I'm glad I stuck to it, and I'm glad I kept doing collabs. And the collabs are really what has helped me, man. Like just covering old movies and shit, and like being able to see if somebody likes it or doesn't like it. Like you and me have done so many fucking hilarious videos on my channel, like whether it be like something stupid like Dragon Wars, or something like awesome that we both like I Am Number 4, or something like Holes that I love and you just took a big shit on,
I didn't know. I gave it a fair grade, man. I didn't give it an F, man. I think I gave Holes like a C or something like that. I just said the movie wasn't great.
I wish I could insert the clip right now. Like I would say, I wish I could say, let's roll the tape, and the tape would say that you literally said, you go, Perez, don't you ever give me another movie like this ever again.
Oh, man. Well, you know what? Hey, there's been times where I've watched something and I hated it, then I go back and rewatch it again. If come to find out, I mean, I might give Holes another watch, man. I might feel differently.
That made me laugh, though.
All right, man. Yeah, so as far as myself goes, what do I got coming up? Well, Snowfall comes out this week, I believe. Thursday. So Thursday. I'll be dropping that review Friday because it drops Thursday night. So I won't be reviewing that till the next day. So Snowfall, the final season, comes out Thursday. So I'm gonna be reviewing the first few episodes of that, and also the Wu-Tang Saga I've been reviewing, which has been doing some good numbers on my channel. And what else? Wu-Tang Saga. What I say?
To Snowfall. But Snowfall. Speaking of Snowfall, I got out. You seeing Cocaine Bear this week?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes, I got my ticket for Friday.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
And I got my early ticket for Creed. And I got my early ticket for Creed 3.
You'd be disappointed in me, bro, but I still haven't seen Creed 2, man. It was one of those and it came out in my time doing the YouTube channel, and I can't remember what it was. I remember that my fiance hadn't seen the first one, so I was like, all right, we'll watch the first one too, and we'll go see the second one. And then I just kept going to see other movies, and I was like, fuck, all right, I'll make sure I catch up on Creed because I've seen the first Creed, I've seen all the Rocky movies, I've seen the first Creed, and I just missed the second one, and I just still haven't seen it. And then the third one's like right around the corner, and I'm like, damn, like now there's so many movies. And then I think that comes out the first weekend of March. I can't remember what else comes out that weekend, but
it drops March 5th. But I got it for. I mean, it's nothing like Darnell. What Darnell watches the shit like 2 weeks early, man. You know, but I got it for 2 days early, so I'm watching it on the first. Yeah,
nice.
The first or the second. Yeah, it's like a few days before it comes out. So you gotta get on Creed too, man. What's wrong with you? Like,
I'm asleep, man. I know that Drago comes back and everything. Like, I just
Drago, baby Drago. You know, so the whole sins of our father type deal. You know, Creed versus Drago. Yeah, man.
I'm asleep on that one, man. I plan on doing a Rocky series on my channel too. I think I mentioned to you recently. I got the Blu-ray collection of the whole movie set, so I'm gonna try to dive into that soon. I'm trying to finish up all these series that I got going on. I picked a bunch of long ones. The 14 Land Before Times. 8 Harry Potters, all this. I'm like, damn, bro. But once I'm done with that, I still gotta finish Jaws too, and I got a couple others. But Rocky's is coming soon.
Yeah, I'm actually reviewing Rocky for the second time. So first, I reviewed the whole series on my channel with Mike, and then so Dave, he decided to do Rocky. So when he said, I'm like, what? He said, yeah, you want to join me? I said, do I?
He was telling me that he said he asked you on for that, and I go, yeah. There's no way he would ever decline.
What?
Like Rocky. It's kind of like when I asked you to do the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise with me, and you had already covered some of them, and you've gone back and re-reviewed some of them on your own channel. There's plenty of you talking about Freddy Krueger on YouTube.
Yes, sir. Yeah, because those are my favorite franchises, man. The Elm Streets, the Rockies, the Godfathers, the Rambos. You know, so I got to think of the next series that I'm going to tackle, which I don't know. Yeah, I got to think about that. After some alcohol, I'll come up with something there. That's why I wait for people to watch movies I want to watch.
I typically don't. And I think the reason I think for me, what's kind of like, thankfully, my fiance she will watch whatever with me. So we go to the movies every Thursday together. And so, if I go, a lot of times I'll go see a movie by myself, if she's like busy or she doesn't want to go or something. Like I went to go see Avatar for the third time the other day. She was like, I'm good. I'm gonna stay home. Yeah, sometimes there's a couple of those, man. There's a couple of really big movies that came out in the time that I've done YouTube that I still have on a list. I'm like, I'm gonna get back to that when I catch up, and I'm gonna do it. But I think of one random one, like that Oscar movie from a few years ago, Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson.
Oh yeah.
Like I've seen the clips, I've seen like the big blow up fight. I've seen all that. I've always wanted to see it, and I'm still like,
haven't seen it yet. Oh man, that's a good watch, man. It's a hard watch because it hits so close to home, man.
I remember watching your review for it.
Yeah. Because being that I've been married and divorced, like I relate to a lot of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Even though, let's be honest, black couples and white couples argue very differently. But with white couples, it's like, you make me sick. I just can't stand you. With black couples, it's a lot of this shit, man. Fuck you. Getting slapped with raw pieces of chicken and shit. You know what I mean? But I can relate to a lot of that stuff, man. So that's a good watch.
There's so many movies like that, bro. And it's so funny to me too. I'm sure you have this kind of thing where you watch and talk about so many movies, TV shows, shit that nobody even knows about, and then you talk to somebody, they're like, "Hey, Shad, you seen this?" And you're like, "No, I haven't seen that one." What? I thought you called yourself a movie fan. It's like, okay, so I haven't seen one movie, and I can tell you the 10 movies I've seen in the last week. You ain't seen shit, but because you saw that one popular movie, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh man, that's my cousin, man, my older cousin who I had on here for the Crush Groove live stream that I did. I call him my evil twin. Oh, he breaks my balls all the time, man. He breaks my balls all the time, man. You a movie critic, man? Then you critics say shit, man. Make a movie. Can you make a better movie? I'm like, dude, why are you so angry, man? Like, what's wrong? And then he criticized me for only liking Italian stuff because he wanted me to compare Malcolm X and Goodfellas, right? I'm like, dude, that's apples and oranges, but you can't compare those two. Why? Those are both, Best Picture nominations. I said, bro, because Malcolm X and Gandhi would be a better comparison as far as the film goes. I'm not gonna compare it to Goodfellas, man. He said, "Well, pick one." I said, "Goodfellas." See, you always go for the Italians. Your favorite characters are Tony Soprano and Rocky. You don't look out for the black people. I'm like, Kareem, man, go to bed.
Right. Yeah, man. There's always people like that, dude. Like they just make the movie conversation almost hilarious, but like it's just
Right.
so over the top, man. One that I get often is the movie. I know for sure you haven't seen this. I'll be surprised if you've seen this, but
Okay.
The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. No, I haven't seen that one. Nah.
So that's one, bro. That's so popular, and I mean it's really popular with the white folk, but it's popular across the board.
Right.
And it got so much praise, and the soundtrack's great. Can't tell you how many times people talk, and I still want to see it. I just never saw it. People are just like, "You've never seen The Greatest Showman?" It's like, and you call yourself a movie critic, and I'm always like, I don't call myself a movie critic. I try to go out of my way to not call myself that. But what's it called? Like people, are like, oh, I thought you knew movies. I'm like, you want me to tell you the 10 movies I've seen this week that you'll never hear of and never see before? But let's pull out facts from 1985's filmography, But like, it's just funny how people are like, they'll be like,
oh yeah, listen, even Siskel and Ebert haven't seen every goddamn movie, man. Like there's been times I watched Siskel and Ebert back in the day. I wanted them to review something that I've seen. They wouldn't review it because they haven't seen it. I'm like, and I mean, of course, a part of me like, man, how come I ain't review that one? It's impossible, dog. It's impossible to watch unless you're Jacob. It's impossible to watch every fucking thing.
Jacob does a lot, man. And I thought I do a lot too. I try my best to keep up and have like multiple videos a week. But man, I wish I had the time and the ability to sit down and watch as much as Jacob does. Like
Jacob is a beast. That dude watches everything from 1930s, noir to fucking Hitchcock. I mean, you name it, he watches it. Like, dude, like he even watched Dolomite. I'm like, come on, I don't know any white person that watched Dolomite, but he watched it, and he does that. That's what me and him clicked because he actually liked it.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely got me into a lot more of that older black cinema, man. Like, especially like some of them that like were just so good, like when I think back on, I mean, some of them were pretty bad, man. Like, Foxy Brown, terrible. What's it called?
Coffee.
Terrible. But then there was movies like Superfly that I just laughed my ass off the entire time. Like, I thought that movie was so good. I still plan. I'm telling you now, I still plan on having you join me for the Superfly remake. It's gonna happen.
Okay, you know what? I accept the challenge because I purposely boycotted that movie just because of my love for the first movie. But I've had people over the years tell me, man, just watch it. I don't know, it's good. This good. Just watch it. No, man. You don't remake a movie like Superfly. You just can't do it. But I mean, I'll accept the challenge. I'll watch it.
We'll tackle that after Harry Potter.
Yeah, no doubt, man. All right, y'all. So all those are tuned in. Lovely, Mike, Cinematic Tendency. Thank all y'all Blacktastic for coming in and putting your 2 cents in and commenting. Appreciate y'all. So make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to Perez. I put the link in the description this time. Because usually I forget, but I made sure I did it this time. Yeah, Jacob watches and knows a lot. Yeah, Jacob, that dude's like a fucking movie encyclopedia,
Yeah, he's super knowledgeable. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So we about to head on out of here. So this is Rashad G, Anthony A. Perez signing out. See y'all in the next video. Peace. Now the awkward 5-second broadcast ending thing.